The billionaire twins rejected every meal made by dozens of maids until one poor woman with nothing left to lose stepped into their mansion. What happened next will leave you speechless. If you're just tuning in, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share this video with your friends and family. And tell us, where in the world are you watching from? It was a stormy Monday morning in the opulent yet chaotic Abiola estate, a sprawling mansion perched on the hills of Lekki, Lagos. Inside, chaos was not just expected, it was routine. And at the center of it all stood Deo Abiola, billionaire, CEO of Abiola Infrastructures, and father to the most difficult pair of 7-year-olds in the city. Deo stood in the middle of his designer kitchen, looking like a soldier who had lost the war. His spatula was dripping with half-burnt eggs, his once white shirt was decorated with orange juice splatters, and an egg yolk stain made it look like a modern art piece. One of his socks had mysteriously gotten stuck to the side of the stainless steel fridge. The toaster was belching smoke, the kettle screamed like it had seen a ghost, and the rice cooker blinked error in red letters. Deo was moments away from collapse. "Breakfast is almost ready," he called out, poking his head out of the smoky kitchen like a submarine periscope. Silence. Then, boom, 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 the thunder of little feet stomping down the marble stairs. "Today, I'm wearing gold," declared Alika, his daughter, as she burst into the dining room wearing a glittery skirt and fake diamond tiara like she was royalty. Her twin brother, Arinz, followed closely behind, holding a navy blue hoodie and scowling like a king denied his throne. "No, gold is too shiny. We're wearing navy. I already told you that." "But we wore navy yesterday," Alika countered, flipping her braids. Dramatically, "People will think we don't have clothes." "So what? Navy is strong." "Navy is noble," Arinz said, puffing his chest like a miniature president. Alika stuck her tongue out. "Well, I'm older. By what, 6 minutes? That doesn't even count?" "Does too. Does not. Those two? Yo." Deo groaned, voice cracking with exhaustion. "Sit. Eat. Don't chew on the charger cables again." The twins flopped into their custom-made chairs with all the flair of tiny royals at war. Deo served their plates like sacred offerings. Toast, eggs, fruit, and a sprinkle of hope. They both took one bite and gagged in unison. "Ooh, Dad. This toast tastes like rubber mixed with disappointment," Alika said, spitting into her napkin. "And these eggs are spicier than Grandma's tongue," Arinz added, reaching for a glass of water as if his life depended on it. Deo fell into the chair opposite them like a tree being chopped down. "I tried. I really tried. But this is what happens when you fire every maid I bring into this house." Arinz crossed his arms and said with the seriousness of a judge, "They didn't understand us. We're different, Daddy. You said we were gifted. You say that every morning, remember?" Alika chimed in sweetly, as if reminding him of a motivational speech. Deo put his head in his hands. "I did say that. But being gifted doesn't mean you terrorize every employee." The twins smiled like they had just won a game. Then the next round of battle began dressing for school. Deo sprinted upstairs and downstairs 5 times looking for matching socks. He struggled with hair gel and ponytails. One shoe went missing. One juice box exploded inside a backpack. Arinz asked for his toothbrush at the last second, and Alika claimed her water bottle smelled funny. By the time Deo dropped them off at their elite private school, he looked like a man who had been chased by a pack of wild animals through the jungle. He arrived at the sleek glass-fronted building of Abiola Infrastructures looking like he had wrestled the devil himself. He slumped into his leather office chair and sighed. That was when Muna, his highly efficient secretary, walked in with a tablet in one hand and iced coffee in the other. "Sir, the Abuja investors moved their meeting to next week." One of them had a family emergency, she said calmly. Deo didn't even fake sadness. God bless them. I needed that break more than they know. Muna studied him for a moment. Sir, you look like you lost a boxing match. I did, he said flatly, to two very small and very loud opponents. She chuckled. Still no maid? I need someone different. Not from the agency this time, he said, sitting upright. I want someone firm. Grounded. Someone who doesn't get intimidated by tantrums and glitter tiaras. Someone who can help restore sanity to my house. Even if she has a past, I don't care. I need results. Muna tilted her head thoughtfully. Actually, I may know someone, but she's not your typical hire. Deo looked up. At this point, if she has 2 arms, 2 legs, and a working moral compass, I'll hire her. Muna hesitated, then smiled. She's my cousin. Recently returned from the north. She used to be a school teacher before things went sideways. She doesn't like rich people, so you may have to convince her. I'll double her salary, triple it. She won't care about money, sir. She only cares about one thing, her peace. Deo looked intrigued for the first time all morning. Interesting. Call her. Muna stepped out, phone in hand. Somewhere in the quieter part of the city, a cracked-screen Nokia phone began to buzz on top of a small wooden table. A young woman named Amaka sat on a mat, staring at the wall, unaware that her life was about to take a dramatic turn. She didn't know that in less than 24 hours she would be standing inside the Abiola mansion, and that 2 billionaire twins would meet the one woman who wouldn't bend, break, or run. And what happened next would leave everyone speechless. The transformation began slowly, like a stream gathering force after a dry season. On the 4th day, Amaka woke the twins herself, not with shouting or clanging pans, but with a soft knock and a cheerful song from her village. Alika groaned. Why is she singing like it's a festival? Arin sat up, confused. What's that smell? The scent of moi moi and fresh bread floated through the air. When they reached the table, their jaws dropped. The food looked like it belonged in a restaurant menu. Good morning, children, Amaka greeted. They mumbled their replies. But by the time they took their first bites, both were wide-eyed. Over the next weeks, Amaka brought in a routine. Storytelling hour after school, 15 minutes of meditation before bedtime, and weekend chore competitions with small prizes. She used games to teach them manners, riddles to help them learn discipline, and songs to encourage kindness. One Friday, Alika helped Arins clean his room without being asked. Why'd you do that? He asked. Because Miss Amaka said leaders lead by example. Deo overheard and nearly dropped his car keys. By the 2nd month, teachers at their school called to say the twins were more focused, respectful, and even helping other children with tasks. At a school assembly, Arins volunteered to read a poem, something he had never dared before. Alika started writing short stories and gave one to Amaka, to the strongest woman I know. Deo, once always late and scattered, found himself organizing his meetings better just so he could have dinner with his kids. They laughed more, fought less, and when they did argue, they resolved it with words, not tantrums. One evening, Deo stood at the doorway watching the twins fall asleep on the couch, heads resting on Amaka's lap as she hummed softly. His eyes misted. He walked up and whispered, "You didn't just fix my house. You saved my children." Amaka smiled gently. "No, sir, they saved me too." And for the first time in a long while, both of them felt like family was not a structure of blood and duty, but of patience, healing, and the kind of love that rebuilds what life tries to break. By the end of her first week at the Abiola mansion, Amaka had become a quiet revolution. She didn't yell. She didn't bargain. She didn't threaten to leave. Like the maids before her, she simply observed, she listened. And when the twins tested her, as they always did, she didn't flinch. Monday morning. The first test. Miss Amaka, I want jelly beans for breakfast, Alika announced as she twirled into the kitchen, still in her unicorn pajamas. And I want ice cream, Arins added, dragging a chair behind him, climbing it like a mountain goat. Amaka turned from the stove. Wonderful, she said with a calm smile. You can both have jelly beans. And ice cream for breakfast next year. The twins froze. What? Alika blinked. Next year, Amaka repeated, flipping their golden brown pancakes. If you pass all your school tests, clean your rooms, and stop throwing your shoes at each other, then maybe I'll throw you a jelly bean feast. The twins looked at each other, stunned. No one had ever said no to them without shouting or storming out. But we're special, Arins muttered. Yes, you are, Amaka said gently. But being special doesn't mean the rules vanish. She served the pancakes with banana slices shaped into smiley faces. The twins stared. By the end of breakfast, their plates were empty. Wednesday, Operation Tidy Room. Deo came home early and stopped dead at the door. The house was silent, suspiciously silent. He crept toward the twins' wing, expecting chaos. But when he pushed open the bedroom doors, his jaw nearly hit the floor. Toys had been sorted by size. Books were stacked. Dirty laundry was in the hamper. In the middle of it all sat Amaka, cross-legged, with a chalkboard. Today's word is responsibility, she said, as the twins copied the spelling with chalk dust on their cheeks. Deo leaned against the wall and whispered, Are you a magician? No, sir, she said without turning. Just someone who believes children become what they see. Saturday, the real bond begins. It was supposed to be a lazy day. The twins wanted to play video games and watch cartoons. But Amaka had different plans. She woke them up with a soft knock and a challenge. We're baking today, but I'm not helping. You'll do everything. If you mess up, we clean up. Together. The twins groaned, whined, even bargained. But by noon, they were laughing flour in their hair, dough on their cheeks, and a banana bread loaf slowly rising in the oven. Arins burned one edge. Alika cracked 2 eggs onto the floor. But they didn't quit. That evening, they proudly served the banana bread to Deo like a royal offering. This is actually edible, he said, eyes wide. The twins beamed. Amaka just smiled, wiping her hands on her apron. Amaka's way. She never touched her phone in front of the kids. She didn't gossip with the other staff. She had no jewelry, no perfumes, no selfies on Instagram. In a world of noise, she was silence, and slowly her silence healed. She taught the twins to water the plants every morning. She gave them each a notebook and called it their gratitude book. Every night before bed, they wrote one thing they were thankful for. Some days it was pancakes. Other days it was Amaka. 1 month later, Deo came home late one Friday evening and saw something that brought tears to his eyes. The twins were in the living room, heads bowed in concentration, folding laundry without being asked. What are you two doing? He asked, stunned. Folding, Alika said proudly. We want to surprise Miss Amaka. She's resting. She said she had a little headache, Arins added, concerned. Deo walked to the kitchen, where Amaka sat sipping tea in silence. He watched her for a moment, then sat across from her. They love you, he said softly. You've done more in 4 weeks than 10 maids did in a year. Amaka looked down. They just needed someone to listen, someone to see them, not spoil them. Deo studied her. You always speak like you've walked through a war. She gave him a faint smile. Because I have. The next morning, the storm arrived. Her name was Madame Astrodeo's older sister, head of family affairs and eternal critic. I came to inspect the children. I heard you hired a maid who used to be a school teacher from the village, she announced as she barged in. Amaka greeted her respectfully, but Osaru waved her off like dust. What can someone like her teach billionaire twins? She hissed. What if she steals? What if she's here for your money? Deo bristled. But before he could speak, Arins ran in, clutching a book. Miss Amaka is teaching us how to write stories. Alika followed with a drawing. She said we can be anything we want, even astronauts. Osaru stared, stunned. Later that evening, she sat quietly in the living room, sipping juice. Your maid has a strange power, she muttered to Deo. She's not a maid, Deo replied. She's the miracle we didn't know we needed. Amaka's healing too. What no one knew was that Amaka cried at night sometimes, quiet tears. Tears she never let the children see. She missed her younger brother who died in the same fire that destroyed the school she taught in. She missed her voice, once loud and musical, now soft and measured. But every time the twins smiled, every time they wrote something kind in their gratitude journals, a small part of her healed. She wasn't just raising them. They were saving her too. Weeks turned into months. One sunny afternoon, Arins and Alika stood beside their father at his office. They were presenting their first illustrated storybook to his staff, a collection of funny short tales they had written, drawn, and printed with Amaka's help. On the dedication page it said, "To Miss Amaka, who believed in us even when we were impossible." The room erupted in applause. Deo glanced at Amaka, who stood in the back, holding her hands together, silent as ever. Later, as they left the office, Deo turned to her. "Have you ever thought about being more than a nanny?" Amaka smiled. "I already am. I'm a builder of hearts." Amaka was in the twins' room, helping them build a cardboard rocket for their next school project. Alika was taping windows on the rocket ship. Arins was pretending to be Captain Arins of Jupiter. They were giggling, loud and full of joy. Then knock, knock, the security guard opened the gate. A tall man, cloaked in a worn brown jacket and holding a single umbrella, stood staring at the house like it had memories buried in its walls. The man's name was Abina, and he was the ghost Amaka had buried deep in her past. The twins had gone to the kitchen. Amaka was folding their clothes when she heard footsteps. The hallway filled with the smell of rain and old regrets. She turned. Obina stood there, older now, his face worn by time. "Amaka," he said, voice dry. "I heard where you were. I had to come." She didn't speak. Not yet. Because the man standing in front of her was the same man who had once called her his everything, and then vanished when the fire took her school, her home, and her brother. She remembered the hospital, the ashes, the promises broken, and how she'd rebuilt herself from pain. Now here he was, asking with his eyes if there was anything left to salvage. From his office upstairs, Deo noticed the unusual stillness. He stepped out and watched from the hallway, unseen. Amaka's posture had changed. Her quiet grace was there, but it was wrapped in armor now. Obina spoke. "I didn't know how to come back. I was ashamed. But I never stopped thinking about you. I heard what happened, and what you're doing now. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you." Still, she said nothing. "I thought maybe, if you've healed, maybe we could." "No," she said softly finally. "I didn't heal to go back. I healed to go forward." Obina nodded. It was the gentlest rejection, but it was final. "I wish you joy," she said, "even if I'm not part of it." As Obina walked away into the rain, Deo slowly descended the staircase. He didn't speak either. He just handed her a cup of warm tea and said, "You're stronger than most generals I've ever met." She gave a tiny smile. "I didn't want the twins to see me cry, so thank you for staying quiet." He nodded. "You didn't cry. You stood." After dinner, the twins hugged Amaka tighter than usual. They didn't know the details, but they sensed something had changed. Grown stronger. "Miss Amaka, you're our real star," Alika whispered before falling asleep. The twins had been accepted into a prestigious school abroad full scholarship thanks to the portfolio Amaka helped them build. She stood beside Deo at the airport, watching the twins wave from the glass doors, excitement buzzing around them like bees. "You raised them well," Deo said. "We raised each other," she replied. He looked at her. "Are you leaving now that they're gone?" Amaka paused. "I think I'll stay a little longer. This place still has some healing left to do." Deo smiled. And as they walked back toward the car, rain beginning to fall again, Amaka tilted her head toward the sky and whispered, "Let it rain. I've survived worse. I'm ready."